Hey guys, what's up? Welcome. Happy Sunday. How's everybody doing? Glad to see everybody's in tip-top shape. Everybody seems to be here today. 27 people already. Awesome. How's everybody? What are we talking about today, guys? What are we talking about? I wanted to discuss a lot of interesting things with you guys today. Welcome to the Sunday show. I hope the levels are okay. It's not too hot, hopefully. If it is, let me know. If the microphone is clipping or anything. If there's any weird noises, let me know. And welcome to the show, guys. Happy New Year. How have you guys been doing? I hope you guys survived the holidays. Everybody, hopefully nobody's worse for the wear. I think everybody is kind of holidayed out at this point. I think I am. I enjoyed the holidays. It was a little bit rough though, you know. I mean, after a while, 2-3 days, you end up getting worn down a little bit. Dan, sorry to hear Dan's got a cold. Cold and miserable. Sorry, Dan, excuse me. Do you have a cold and you're miserable, or is it cold and miserable in terms of the weather? I'm not sure. If it's the weather, it's better than being sick. So I hope you're not sick. I hope it's just the weather. And by the way, it's cold and miserable here too. So we're in the same boat. Hey, Jean. Good morning. I hope everybody's doing really well. Dog is not missing. Paul, she's here. She's here. Mascot right over there. Sleeping in her usual spot. So you'll probably hear her snoring. She's not snoring right now. So she will be shortly, I'm sure. Let's just say good morning to everybody. I missed you guys. First of all, this week just flew by. I don't know if it was just me, but it was Monday. I blinked and it was Thursday. So I don't know where the time went. I didn't have an opportunity to do too much posting of videos. I did post one video this week, and we'll talk about that in a bit. And I do have some other things lined up, but it's just like I was not able to crank out anything else. Unfortunately, I try my best, but sometimes time is not on my side, as the song says. I wanted to know if you guys are, of course, if you guys have anything interesting that you want to mention or talk about, feel free to interrupt me, because the show Addicted to Gear for Sunday is not about me, it's about you guys. And it's basically a forum where you guys can actually interact with each other. I'm just sort of the intermediate message relayer, so to speak, between you guys, me, and whoever else you want to communicate with. So if you guys are interested in participating in the chat, you have to know that you have to subscribe. So right over here at the bottom in squinty print, it's mentioned that you need to subscribe. So if you're lurking and you've just jumped in on the show for the first time, first of all, welcome. Don't be shy. Subscribe so you can chat. It takes a minute, and then you'll be able to chat on today's show and participate. And there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about here, and everybody has a lot of great topics. All right. So that's the first thing to get out of the way, so everybody knows how it works. All right. So let me just scroll back, say hi to a few people, and then post your comments, post your questions, post your updates, and we'll get through them, all right? All right. So Randy's here. Good morning. Eagle and Pony Show. Good morning. Gene is here as well. I have a little bit of a cold. Not a cold, just like sniffles. And I'll try not to be rude. Cushman, good morning. Jack, good morning as well. If there's any questions along the way, I'll refer to the questions so we can get through them quicker, the ones that are already posted. Jack says he's got his coffee and his smoke and he's ready to go. I did mention before the show started, guys, if you guys were interested, I put a link to the video. The video is the guitar kit that I'm going to be building over the winter. And I wanted to share something with you that I discovered, and it was kind of news to me. So if I didn't know about it, maybe you guys don't know about it. So I'm going to share that with you guys in a minute. If I forget, just remind me. It was an eye-opening kind of aha moment for me. And also there's a poll. The poll question was basically, I was asking whether, what you usually play through. If it's analog gear, tube amps, if it's, a multi-effects unit, if it's just acoustic instrument. I'm just curious to see where you guys are and what you guys are interested in playing through and what has your attention, because I can gear my videos towards that as well, depending on what you guys are interested in. All right, so where was I? Keith, good morning. Paul, good morning. As I mentioned, Gene already. Mark, gas station, good morning. Gary, good morning. Mark, good morning. Paul says, I've never been able to find the fence, let alone the pole. How come you can't find it? It's actually, when you go into Addicted to Gear and you click on the icon, I guess, you should be able to see it there. It's in the community section for some. I don't know why they hide it. And I did share it out. So I don't know if you're not, if you haven't turned on your notifications, but if you don't turn them on, maybe you won't be getting them. But I think most people get them. Have any? I know some of you have gotten it because I see that people have answered it. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Gene says, hi Tony, we can't wait to see what you have planned for your latest guitar kit build. Maybe add lasers. Lasers. Why didn't I think of that? So this sound is a little bit weird. It's a, I'm playing through the Fractal. This is not one of my favorite presets. It's a Mesa preset that I stumbled on, but I don't really like it. Let's see if there's something else. Maybe because it's too dark. It's going through a 4x12. Maybe if I go through it's slightly brighter. I'm playing through this guitar, guys, if you're wondering. It looks like a 335, and it is, but it's a vintage 335. I'll talk about this in a minute too, because I also discovered something really interesting about this guitar just recently. And it just goes to show, sometimes it's right under your nose and you don't realize it. But I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Jumping back to everybody. So I'm going to scroll back down to the end, just not to waste time. Everybody's here, so I don't want to necessarily talk about, waste too much time saying hello to everybody, but it's a general hello to the gang, and I'll jump into the questions. And if I missed your question, please add them up again. Just add it up at the end, okay? All right, so, okay, let me go to your questions. Mark, just because my eyes fell on your post here, talking two guitars. Sorry, I can't read this morning. I think I'm dyslexic. Taking two guitars to the tech this week. Which ones, Mark? And what needs to be done? What has the doctor ordered on those guitars? And Eddie had a question for Mark. And if anybody's in the area, you can maybe help him out. Mark is asking, Eddie's asking, who do you recommend for guitar work in the MD area? So if there's anybody else in that area that has a good tech reference, somebody they know and trust, maybe we can help Mark out with that question. It's always really hard to find somebody you trust with your guitars. I stopped bringing my guitars to techs a long time ago. What I normally do is work on them myself, just because I can to a certain degree. But if there's anything that is kind of beyond the scope of my abilities, I'll bring it to a tech. There's not that many techs that I trust in this area where I am. And to be honest with you, every time I get the bill, I'm flabbergasted. Things are just getting so expensive, you know. The last time I checked, just to replace pickups in a guitar, they were charging like $100, which I find is a little excessive. I had a nut replaced once. I know it sounds painful, but it's just a guitar nut, don't worry. I had a nut replaced, and the reason why I brought it to the tech is I didn't have time to do it. They charged me like $100 to get the nut, to replace the nut, you know, with a bone nut and stuff. So I think the prices there too are going up. And if you can do some of the work yourself, I highly recommend it. Not only because you know how you want your guitar to be set up. Nobody knows. Like when you bring it to a tech, unless the tech is a really good tech and asks you some essential questions before he starts the work. You know, what kind of music do you play? How hard do you strum? You know, what do you like? What don't you like in terms of the setup? A lot of them don't do that. What they do is they normally set up the guitar to like a middle ground, so it kind of fits all playing styles, and then you know, you work with that. So for me, that's not necessarily the best setup, because I know how I like my setup to be and how I play and what kind of music I play and how I like my relief and string height and everything. And it gets to a point where when you're doing guitar setup, like a minute change, like I'm talking, you know, fractions of a millimeter sometimes make a huge difference in the feel on the guitar. I know, because I have a lot of guitars and I try to set them up the same way, and it's very difficult. Like I have to take really precise measurements. If I want this guitar to play like my other 335, for example, I have to take precise measurements of, you know, the relief, the string height, you know, the saddles, to get it to be the same way. And it's not going to be 100% the same. It'll get pretty close. Some guitars just can't mimic other guitars just because of the way they're made, even though they're similar. I discovered that on my Epiphone 335. I tried to set the action and the height and everything on the guitar like my Gibson 335. Wasn't able to do it. I can't get the action as low as I have it on my Gibson 335 on the Epiphone. I'll start getting string buzz before I can get the action down that low, which I was a little disappointed about, because I do like my action to a certain place, and I can get it really, really down low on the 335 Gibson, but not on the Epiphone. So Presley says we have a 25 question intake process. See, that's what I like to hear. That's how I think everybody should do it. 25 questions, that's pretty good, Presley. Out of curiosity, what kind of questions do you ask? If you can share with us a couple of those questions. All right. So, sorry, I almost got carried away and I stopped looking at the questions that are going down. So Mark found somebody in Frederick, and he's a touring tech, so he's harder to nail down. Yeah, I could imagine that he's probably moving all over the place. And Mark goes to a guy called Stephen Coghill, and he's very good. And Mark is going to upgrade his Les Paul to get a new wiring harness, and Mojo pickups, Mojo tone, and putting P90s in the Gretsch. Nice. So the harness that you're putting in, Mark, is that going to be like a 50s wiring harness? Are you going something special to the? Are you choosing something different? What's going on with that? The Mojo tone pickups, I hear only good things about. So I'd be curious, and perhaps other people might want to know, once you have them in your guitar, how you like them. So share with us if you can, once you have the guitar back. Hey, Christian, good morning. Christian says, hi, Charles, a nice, interesting projects you are working on. Um, Jerry says, is that string tech guy by you, Tony? No, I'm not in the. I'm not in that area, unfortunately. Sorry if I seem distracted, guys. I'm just trying to answer questions and read questions at the same time. Paul says, generally speaking, for a guitar tech, the hourly rate with an hour minimum for a tech is the same as your local rate for your car. Yeah, I'd say it's close to that. You're probably looking at about $100 an hour, around there. Gary says, I really want a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe. Um, those are good amps. I've owned an older one. It wasn't the 4. You're looking at the 4. I think mine, the one I had was a 3 at a time. 3? I'm pretty sure it was the 3. And they're good all around workhorse amplifiers, those hot rods. A lot of people like them because, they're not that expensive. You can do a lot with them. And they're easy to find. There's an abundance of hot rod guitars on the used market, so you can usually get them for pretty cheap. So Alan is here. Welcome, Alan. Alan says, I recently got the Taylor neck shim job done under warranty. Brothers Music in Wind Gap, PA. Great acoustic luthiers. So Alan, if I'm not mistaken, that is, for people who don't know, the way the Taylor guitars are made, the guitar necks can be removed. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, Alan, because I've only had one Taylor, and it was a long time ago, and I never had the neck worked on. But the way I remember it being is that the way Taylor makes their acoustic guitars is that you can actually remove the necks on the guitar. Because they're kind of like bolted on from the inside instead of glued. And so because of that, you're able to take off the neck, shim the neck, and rework the neck angle if need be, with a lot less hassles. So how did that turn out for you, Alan? How is the Taylor playing now? Mark says 50s wiring harness. Thumbs up for that. One of my favorites. Orange Drops cap is sort of like, for me, it's the go-to cap if I can get my hands on them. And ripping out the circuit board. Yeah, I did the same, Mark. I did the same. If the 50s wiring harness is a good idea, Orange Drops cap's excellent idea, and taking out the circuit board I think is a good idea too. Keep the circuit board, put it in a little Ziploc bag somewhere so you don't lose it, and just keep it with the guitar just in case you ever want to bring it back to stock because you want to sell it. That's a great way of keeping, making sure nothing depreciates, because people sometimes like to have their guitars mint condition. One other suggestion I would have, if you like to swap out pickups often, is try out the Obsidian wire. I call it a circuit board. It is a circuit board, but it's not the same circuit board as you would get from Gibson, because you can actually pop in the wires without soldering anything. So it's a great option for those that like to swap out pickups often. You don't ruin your pots with the heat, and you can put swap pickups in and out very, very easily, very, very quickly. And you don't even ruin your wires on your pickups, because you know when you solder a wire, you tend to, if you're putting it into another guitar, you have to snip off the ends that were previously soldered, you know, retin them, and you know those wires get shorter and shorter. Well, with the Obsidian wire, you don't have that. You drop it in, you just pop in. There's little clips, the way Gibson should have done it. There's little clips that you don't need a clip on the wire. Like that's the big drawback with Gibson, is that you need special clips that go on the wire, and then those clips clip onto the board. Those clips are hard to find, and that's the big disadvantage with that system. The Obsidian wire doesn't need those. You can clip the wire directly onto the board that has their own clips actually mounted on the board. So it's just a little lever, you push the wire in and it holds it in place and you're good to go. So it makes things a lot easier. I have a video on that. I can probably find it and share it with you guys, but you can probably find it yourself if you look on my channel. But I highly recommend them. And ever since I've been using those, here, this is the video for that. Here, I'll just share it with you guys. Ever since I've been using that system, I've been very happy with, and I tend to use that guitar for pickup upgrades when I'm experimenting and not sure, you know, if I'm going to keep the pickup or not, because it allows me to try it before and not ruin anything. And if ever I want to put those pickups in another guitar at that point, at least I know what they sound like, and I know that they're keepers or not. So I put the link in the chat if you guys want to check out that video and you're interested in that. Eddie says, I played a Wolfgang standard at a local shop this week. It's a nice guitar for $500. Probably going to pull the trigger this week. So Eddie, I believe you mentioned last week you were looking at the Wolfgang and you had asked my opinion on that. I like the Wolfgangs. I think they're good. If you can get one for $500, I think that's a good deal. And the only drawback with those guitars, and I mentioned it I think last week, maybe you remember or not, but it is that the pickups on those guitars, the routing for the pickups are made a little bit different. They're a little, if you look at the routing, you'll notice that, you know where the legs of the pickups sit? So the routing is not really a rectangular shape. It's a rectangular shape with little ears sticking out, right? That's to fit the legs of the pickups. Though that routing is a little rounded on the Wolfgangs, because the pickups that they use, the Wolfgang pickups, have rounded over feet. So they fit nicely in that guitar. But if you try and take another pickup and put it in that guitar, you have to file the feet to make them rounded to fit. It's just a little thing, but if you're like me and you like to swap pickups, just note that you're gonna have to do that. It's a little gotcha. It's one of those things. Not a deal breaker because it's doable, but it's still one of those things that you should be aware of. Because I like to swap pickups, and that was one of the things. All right, so guys, first of all, if you're enjoying the content that we're producing on Addicted to Gear, please give me a thumbs up if you don't mind, before we get too deep into the weeds and talk about a million other things. I would appreciate that. It helps the channel, and it helps me to know that you guys are there and that you're awake and you're listening. And you're not just turning on the show and then walking away to, I don't know, smoke a cigarette or something, you know. Cheers, guys. Eddie Jr. says, Tony, exactly, I would have to grind the legs to round them over. Yes, sir, yes. All right, exactly. There you go. Antun, just saw a video about the new Eastman Juliet with Bigsby from the Guitarista YouTube channel, and you got gas. I like the Eastman guitars. They look pretty nice. I haven't seen that specific video, but as far as Eastman guitars go, they're pretty sweet. Here, let me just, I like to look at the stuff when I'm referring to it, just to refresh my memory and to make sure that we're talking the same lingo. Juliet guitars, it's cool. It's a nice guitar. It's a little different, I gotta say, because it does have the center block, kind of like the Firebirds. If you guys are familiar with the Firebirds, so it has like a center block happening on that guitar. Very unique looking guitar. Interesting headstock, and I'm just looking if I can find a price on there. Yeah, so it's $2,519 Canadian, and it's a really nice color. It's called Pomona Blonde, which is kind of like almost looks like a cream, nice cream color. First time I hear of this neck material that they use, they're using a one-piece okoum. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it properly. It's an okoum neck with an ebony fretboard, bone nut, all the regular appointments. The body is also made of the same wood. I wonder what family that wood is. Because a lot of times the woods fall into certain categories. It's native to West Africa, that wood. Large hardwood tree. Interesting. And is it good? I don't know if it's good. They say it offers a fairly balanced yet bright tone and is a good solid body wood. Interesting. So there you go. I learned something new today. Very nice looking guitar if you're looking at getting that one. Very unique for sure. I'm not a big fan of the Bigsby, I'm going to be honest. So I probably would end up choosing the model without a Bigsby for my own personal preference. But if you guys like, I find the Bigsby, it adds a lot of weight and mass to the body. I like to get my guitars to be relatively light, so putting a Bigsby on there, I never felt the Bigsbys worked all that great either, unless they've improved them over the years and maybe they're using a Bigsby style bridge that works better than the standard ones. I'm not really sure. Eddie says, when it comes to sleep, I need 8 hours a day and 10 hours at night. I'm with you, Dave. I'm with you, Ed. I'm with you, man. I try and get as much sleep as I can, but sometimes it just doesn't work. Okay, cool. So these men guitar, very nice. Alan says Taylor is great now. Taylor requires that you buy a new full height bone saddle when the neck is reset, so with the new strings the whole job was $100. Guitar is worth about $2K. Well, a neck reset and a new bridge, $100 sounds about right. If you're including the price of the bridge as well, sounds about right. As long as you're happy with it, man. If you got a $2,000 guitar, acoustic guitar, and you're not happy with it, it's well worth the investment, in my opinion. And Taylor makes some really nice acoustic guitars, so cheers to that. All right, so what am I missing? I'm just going back a little bit here. So we talked about Eddie. Did I miss anybody's comment? I'm sure I did. I'm going back. So Presley piped in and says the questions that he normally asks when he does a build, or I guess work on a guitar. So tuning, very important. What tuning do you use? Desired action and height is essential. Pick attack, a lot of people miss that one. How hard do you pick? String gauge, very important. Music style. Bending. Bending's important, especially if you're using vintage radius necks. Sometimes it becomes a challenge if the action is quite low and you like to bend your strings a lot, they'll fret out. If you use a pick, fingers, or both, then a bunch of guitar-specific questions. All right. I like that. You're warming my heart with those questions, Presley. All right. Munch had a question. Yes, two questions. Did I miss the first one? Going back, Munch. Let me just. I hate missing questions, and when they're two-parters, I have to scroll back and find the original one. Did I miss it? A lot of questions. Huh? It's good to see that. I think I missed the original question. I saw question number 2. Okay, so Mark Williams Music says, what shape will the headstock of your new Telecaster build have? So, Mark, I haven't decided. So, that's a good thing. It's a good segue. Because I learned something, guys. Something I'm going to share with you guys. I don't know if you guys know this or not. So, I did a video this week. You guys may have seen it. The video was about my new guitar build, project that I'm going to be putting together over the winter months, because I usually like to work on something to keep me busy and ward off the winter blues. And so I decided to get some parts, and I'll put the link below. You guys can watch it later on. I decided to build another guitar, and Telecasters for me are easy because they're not that challenging. They're pretty straightforward, like Strats, pretty much. So I ended up getting some parts from Guitar Anatomy, and one of the parts that I got was a neck. And here, I have it here. Let me just grab it for you guys real quick. One sec. For those of you that haven't seen the video yet, okay? So I ordered a roasted maple neck from the guys over at Guitar Anatomy. And it comes with a paddle neck. So the neck is not carved. The headstock is not carved. So sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. If you have the skills and the tools, you can make the neck headstock anything you want, right? So I haven't decided what it's going to be yet. It's probably going to be a Telecaster style neck. I don't know if it's going to be like a carbon copy of the Fender ones, but I'm going to work it out. I don't have amazing tools. I would probably need a bandsaw that would help me work it out. I don't have a bandsaw, unfortunately. I do have a drum sander system that I can put onto a drill press. I can work with that, but it's a little challenging if you have really straight lines that you got to do. Curves are a little bit easier. Anyways, I haven't decided yet, but that's not the point. The point is, I was a little concerned because it is a baked maple neck. So I thought to myself, wait a minute, the light went on after the fact. If I cut this headstock, what's going to happen with the wood on the inside? Because my impression was that, you know, the neck is baked, so the outside is darker, but maybe the inside, like an Oreo, is still white. And that wouldn't be good, because then you have white outside, and then you have an edge here that's lighter colored wood, maple. Well, I discovered that that's not the case. So I contacted Cameron over at Guitar Anatomy, and he reassured me. He's like, don't worry about it. He's like, we bake the block before we carve it. So what you're seeing here is the inside of the wood. So I didn't know that. When you bake wood, it's all the way through. And I thought that was pretty cool, because I didn't realize that when you bake maple or you roast maple, that it roasts on the inside too. So basically, you know, this would technically be white, right? If they bake it and then carve it. Anyways, this is the end result. So I'm reassured that I now will be able to carve the headstock any way I want, and it's gonna work. I didn't know that, Beavis. You see, like I've been playing guitar for a long time. It's something I didn't know. So I just learned something new. So you never stop learning. You see what I mean? But I just wanted to share with you guys in case some of you guys might be thinking about doing the same thing. Exactly, Dan. Nobody wants to be half baked or go off half cocked, right? The full cock or the full bake. I knew it was going to get to this. Over hard, not easy. Exactly. Yeah, and the light went on with it. Ding. Exactly. Took a while. I need a bandsaw. Exactly. I do need a bandsaw. I've been actually looking on the used market to see if I can find one. But a lot of these inexpensive, cheap bandsaws are not that good. And to be honest with you, my garage is already a mess. So bringing another tool would be a little bit of a pain. What I really need is to find a friend that has a bandsaw and just like go over 15 minutes and just do what I need to do, and that's it. It would be a lot quicker. So I'm gonna have to ask around and see who's got one. So Rico, the neck came from Guitar Anatomy. I put a link for you guys if you want to watch the video. All the details are there, and the link to the Guitar Anatomy website is there in case you want to check them out. They got some really cool things. I did a review of the body, of the neck, and I'm going to be putting together that build for you guys. I'm going to be shooting a series of videos. They'll be long, they'll be boring, but at least they'll document the process for you guys. I think a few people reached out to me and wanted to ask me how to build a guitar. So I said, why not? I'll put it out there, and it'll be a series, you know, smallish clips. How to install the bridge, how to perhaps shield the cavity, how to install the pickups, how to carve the headstock, you know, how to set the, you know, put the neck, how to make sure the neck is leveled, frets are leveled, how to do the relief, all the little things that you would need to know. Well, the guitar, Don P is already painted. It's a nitro, kind of a vintage white paint job. So it'd be cool to have a guitar this color, but it's already done. Yeah, Munch, I think it could help people. People like to do it. People like to build their stuff. I know I love watching that stuff when I'm on YouTube. I tend to gravitate towards those videos. It relaxes me when I watch somebody working on a guitar. It's almost like when I used to watch Bob Ross doing his paintings, you know. It just like puts you in this kind of calm state of mind, and you forget all of the stresses of your life while you're watching the guy build a guitar. That's why I like building guitars too. It's kind of relaxing for me as well. It's not as relaxing when I build a guitar and I have to videotape it for you guys, because then I'm like worried about the lighting. Is my fingers in the shot? Can you see what I'm doing? You know, am I not talking enough? Am I talking too much? So I don't know. Maybe the build will be a raw build. It'll be what it is. I'm not going to be Hollywood about it. I'm just going to go through it, and you guys can watch. And if you like it, it's good. Cushman, thank you. Thank you for the kind words. Cushman says he loves the stream. Love you guys too, man. What do you guys recommend in terms of a headstock? Just in case, you know, I can get some ideas for this build. Like I was thinking automatically Telecaster, just because it is a Telecaster style body, but perhaps maybe, you know, a Telecaster with a twist. I'd like to use like a similar carve, but a little bit different. So you know it's not a Telecaster, like a Fender Telecaster. You know, it's not a Fender Telecaster knockoff. Thank you, Munch. Thank you. Uh, yeah, maybe. Munch says, is there room on the body of the new Telecaster build for an Addicted to Gear logo cut from wood veneers? I don't know. I don't know if I'd put it on the body, because then I have to like route it out. You need tools for that kind of stuff. I was just thinking about putting something on the headstock. I don't know if it'd be my name, my signature. I tend to leave the headstocks blank most of the time, but a blank headstock never looks right. You need to put some kind of a decal on there. So I'm thinking, I do have a vinyl cutter, and I can cut vinyl, and perhaps I can just put a signature or something on the headstock. I don't know. I haven't decided. I haven't gotten to that point yet. So we'll see. Yeah, Munch recommends come up with a unique shape using cups and small dishes for curved templates. I do have somewhere like a French curve. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. French curves were like drafting tools that you used to use. It was like a little rubbery piece of, what's this, like a straight piece that can be bent into all kinds of elaborate curves and stuff. So yeah, I'm not worried about the shape per se. I'm not worried about that as much, but it's really just coming out with, a cut. I've done the Sir headstock Eddie on my son's guitar that I modified. He had a kind of a Strat style headstock on that guitar, and I converted it into a Sir style headstock. So I had copied that, and I still had the template somewhere. So that's doable. That one's not hard to do if you're starting off with a Fender style headstock, because it's kind of like a Fender style headstock with the little end portion, the little rounded ball portion kind of filed off. So it's pretty easy to do. But this one isn't. This one's a paddle. So there's more work to be done. Fat Philosopher, yes. I think you should buy that $300 Bernie Flying V that you posted on Instagram and convert it. Why not? Why not, man? I know how difficult it is to get a left-handed guitar. You always remind me that unfortunately left-handies, people who play guitar left-handed, always kind of get left behind because there's not that many left-handed guitars. Well, a Flying V is perfect. It's symmetrical. All you have to do is flip the bone nut. Flip the bone nut. The saddles would probably have to be flipped as well. So you could either take out the individual saddles and rearrange them, or flip the entire thing. Yes, the knobs would be on the top instead of on the bottom, so it might be a little bit awkward. But hey, Hendrix did it. I've seen Hendrix playing the Flying V upside down like that. And then the cool thing about it is if ever you get tired of it, you just put it back to stock and you can sell it to whoever, left or right, right? $300 seems like a good deal. For a Bernie, if it's made in Japan, that seems like a pretty good deal. What do you guys think? What would you say that, why is my phone still beeping here? So rude of me not to put it on silent. Oh, I wanted to make you hear something funny, guys. Check this out. If I can find it now. I can never find stuff when I need to show you guys something. Where was it? Thank God for the search option. I was playing with the Fractal FM9 over the week. I have to say, this thing is crazy. First of all, I started reading the manual. I never read the manual. I hate reading manuals. I jump into it, and I basically just try and figure it out as I go. The manual on this thing is like reading War and Peace, and it's not light reading. Like, some manuals, there's a lot of fluff, and there's not that much information. This one isn't like that at all. It's like every line in that manual means something. And so you have to kind of pay attention. And I'm trying to read the manual when I'm like in bed, just before going to sleep. I'll scan through a few pages and I'll make mental notes. Anyways, there's so much stuff this thing could do. It's mind-boggling. Check out this patch, guys. It made me laugh. Oh, sorry. It helps to have the volume on. I can't even do the riff. It goes. Something like that. Anyways, it's a freaking organ. Now, guys, you can't tell me that's not cool. This thing is crazy. It's almost like there's nothing you can. If you can program it, you can do it. The limitation on this unit is not the sounds. It's how well you are able to program it. And it's just nuts. So I spent the better part of this week trying to trying to program sounds for my. I'm bringing this unit to our rehearsal tonight. We have a rehearsal booked tonight. So I left the old unit aside and I tried to concentrate on rebuilding my sounds, reconfiguring a set list, and basically ended up programming stuff with headphones. Big mistake. Don't do that. Yeah, Randy, it's a great thing for hockey games if you want to play along with your hockey games. But anyways, long story short, I started reprogramming the sounds, and I started pre-programming the sounds with headphones. Don't do that. Whenever you're using a unit like a Fractal, play the sounds through the speaker you're going to be using, because I dialed them in only to play it through the speaker and they were all off and I had to redial them in again. Anyways, the cool thing is that the Fractal also allows you to do set lists. So not only do you have your presets, and within your presets you have scenes. So your presets are basically, let's say, all the patches. So let's say you have 250 patches or so. I think this one has more. So you have all of your patches. All of those patches can have 9 different sounds that you can program on the switches. And those are considered scenes, so you can have variation of the patches. Then you can take all of those and you can actually make set lists. And the set list is another way to actually access the patches, and you can create your song, and you have 4 variations for that particular song that you can program as a set list. So you can, I think there's 4 set lists, and each set list I think has probably over 30 or 40 songs. So you can actually, instead of searching across 300 or so presets, you can make your set lists. You can scroll easily between your set lists, and then you can call any patch you have or any scene that you have within a patch across all of your patches and create it into a set list. So there's no more tap dancing. You can just dial them in, and it's amazing. Like, just to have that type of functionality is crazy. The thing is, it's all new to me. So I had to kind of figure out how to work it, how to get the sounds to work properly, how to build the channels and everything. It's deep. The thing's deep, which is not a bad thing if you're into that kind of stuff. But if you're the type of guy that just wants to hit the ground running, there's a pretty decent learning curve with the unit. I call it almost like playing 3D chess, because you make a change somewhere, and depending on how you have stuff configured, you could be also modifying other things depending on how you're calling things up. It's complicated, but eventually I'll start doing some very, very simple videos for the newbies out there like me that want to start from square one. Like, how do you turn the thing on? How do you access the tuner? Where is the tuner? Things like that. hopefully that'll help some people out there as well. Yeah, a lot of people, Surfer By, a lot of people, exactly, it's too much. Sometimes it's just too much for them. And they just like blank out. I get it. It's not for everyone. All right. Basically now, I'm going to tell you how I like it when I come back from the rehearsal, probably next week. And I'm not going to, usually whenever I try any new gear, I don't know if you guys are the same as me. Whenever I try any new gear at a rehearsal for the first time, it's never like it's amazing. It's always like it requires some dialing in and tweaking. Because the unit is new and I'm more accustomed to tweaking and creating the stuff on the computer, doing any kind of tweaks live, to be honest with you, I haven't even gotten to that point in the manual yet to be able to do everything just with the buttons. So I'm going to kind of just take mental notes when we're playing and then tweak them in later on. Plus, I don't have that much time today, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it all. But it takes a few sessions to dial it in perfectly. Volumes could be off. Sometimes not enough bass. Too much bass doesn't cut through the mix enough. You know, it's one thing dialing in a sound in your room. It's a whole different thing dialing in a sound and finding your frequency band when you're playing live. And sometimes there's overlap there. I'll gladly be the guinea pig, Surfer By. Why not? I'll give you the feedback. Dan says, let's keep in mind most of us only know the alphabet up to G. Oh, Fat Philosopher is blaming it on me. Come on, Fat Philosopher. I know you wanted it. But it's okay, you can blame me. If the wife gets upset at you, just say it's Tony's fault. I'll be the fall guy. I don't mind. I'll gladly take the fall for you guys. So he says he's gonna buy it, and then he'll let us know. I see you with that guitar, Fat Philosopher. I see you with that guitar. It's funny. I just got a flash of Avatar. I see you. That's the famous line in the movie. Let us know. Let us know how it turns out for you. One of the things I wanted to say actually about this guitar, the 335. This is a vintage 335. If you guys know the vintage brand, it's an older one. I bought this a while ago. Did a review on this one as well. I did a review on this. Here, I think I'll put the link here for you guys on this guitar. I think this is the link to the review on this guitar. Fat Philosopher says, my wife hasn't realized I bought the Ibanez yet. Keep it that way. Make sure the volume's low when you're watching this, and she doesn't watch the reruns, or else you're... This guitar surprised me recently because it was under my nose all this time. I've had this guitar for a while, and I recently bought the Epiphone 335. And honestly, this guitar and the Epiphone sound so different. Not in a bad way. This guitar, I think, sounds better than the Epiphone. And I don't know if it's because it's an older guitar and the woods have had an opportunity to age. Because honestly, I strongly believe that when a guitar gets older, it sounds better. It's just something with the woods. I don't know if it's the wood drying out or the sap drying out, or I don't know. Maybe it's just psychologically my own perception, which might not be accurate. But I know this one sounds very different than the other one. So it could even be just the materials in the guitar. It does have a center block like the other one does. But I have to do a video comparing these two guitars. Actually, I should do a video comparing all three. The Epiphone, this one, and the 335. but notwithstanding the pickups, because the pickups are different in each guitar. So it's not a pickup comparison. It's really a unplugged comparison of the guitar when you're strumming it. You can definitely hear the difference. And anyways, I should do that video for you guys just to compare. These guitars are great, by the way. A lot of people don't know these guitars, and I think I've mentioned it in my video. Unfortunately, the company decided to use the name vintage, because when you Google vintage guitars, you get everything but the company. You get a whole bunch of pictures and information on vintage guitars, but not the brand vintage. So you have to really target the search to be able to pop up the company vintage. But if you can get these guitars, if you can find these guitars, the older ones especially, they're great. Highly recommend them. Lion King, I'm not an expert on woods, but I do know that there is sap in the wood. They tend to kiln, the companies should dry out the woods before they build the guitars to a certain, I think it's 4% humidity, something like that. Don't quote me on that, because again, I'm not an expert, but I think over time the woods continue to dry out, and I don't know if that's the reason for it, but whatever. I don't know. I'm going down a rabbit hole, guys. This is just my theory, and I could be wrong. I would have to ask...
what that means. If you like, I can search the web for Siri, and I could be wrong.
Siri's listening to me. Scary. Okay, Siri, go to bed. Did I say Siri? Everybody's spying on us, guys. Be careful. Davis says, Tony, what do you know about the Jimmy Page Dragon Art Telecaster? There's a good deal on one locally. First of all, Davis, there's a lot of fakes. Be careful. There's a lot of Chinese copies of those guitars. If the deal is too good or sounds like it's too good, be careful. Because you can get a knockoff from China for not that much money. Okay? How much are they asking for? You mentioned it's a good deal. How much are they? Obviously, the Dragon guitar, what I know from the Dragon guitar is that there's a couple of different versions. There's the run-of-the-mill version that they made that is kind of mass-produced. Those are, I think they're about $1,500, brand new, if you can still get them. Then there's the limited edition ones that were, I think, signed by Jimmy Page. Those, forget it. You're not gonna find those. So I'm assuming it's the mass-produced version. But be careful. There's a lot of copies of those guitars where people just take a Chinese body and put a Fender neck on it, and Bob's your uncle, and then ask for $1,000 or $1,200 or whatever. That's what I know. Has anyone tried installing a sound post in an acoustic electric like a violin has to transfer the vibration from the bridge to the back of the body? Good question. I haven't. But that's a good question. So basically what you're doing is you're bridging the top and the back of the guitar to kind of... there must be a reason why they don't do that, why companies don't do that. But I don't know what the answer would be to that. It might be a cool test. One thing that I was kind of considering doing on this build, on my Telecaster build, and this kind of Mark gave me the idea on this one, because Mark mentioned that Friedman uses posts on their necks to, I guess, better seat the neck and transfer the vibrations to the body. I don't know if it's actually worth the effort, and I think you can also do the same thing by using metal posts. But you know how the neck on a Telecaster is bolted to the body, and you have the plate with 4 screws? Well, Friedman, what they do is they still have the 4 screws in there, but they put 2 additional metal rods in the neck pocket, and the back of the neck is carved to receive, so it's like male female. So when they put the guitar together and screw the bolts in, first of all, the neck doesn't shift. I would find it difficult for the neck to shift anyways with the 4 bolts. I mean, shouldn't really shift, but they put in an extra 2 rods in there. Does it help with the vibration and transferring the vibration to the body? Perhaps. So I thought about that, and I said maybe I should try doing something like that on the Telecaster build, just to see, you know. But I know there's a lot of people, what they do is they also put in little metal inserts into the neck. So where the screws go in on the neck, instead of just being a hole, they put a metal insert that receives the screw to better transfer. You know, I don't know. It seems like a lot of hassle for probably a pretty negligible difference in tone, but you know, it's almost like an experiment. Perhaps I'll try it out. Yeah, I don't know if I've been watching The Abnormal Guy, and I'm debating whether or not I should kick him out of the session. I don't want to, but he's kind of distracting. So I'm just gonna give him one more warning, and then he's gonna be gone. All right. So if you're not posting about guitar or music related stuff, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave, and I don't want to, but I might have to do that. Okay. So it's your call. I'm trying to be a nice guy with everyone here. Has anyone built any other type of guitars beyond a standard Telecaster or a Strat? Has anyone done that recently? Because there's a lot of people building Telecasters and Stratocasters, but those to me are typically the easier type guitars. Set neck guitars are always a little bit more of a challenge. So depending on what you're looking at in terms of and your level of experience, it could be a more difficult type of thing. Lempu, nice to see you, buddy. What's up, man? Long time no see. By the way, I build a guitar and have HS1 volume pot configured, and the high frequency noise from here hits the 4th dimension. Please help. So I'm trying to understand your question. I built a guitar and have HS1 volume pot configured, and the high frequency noise. So is it feedback you're referring to? Is that what you're talking about? You're having an issue with feedback? There's a lot of reasons, if that is the case, and I'm understanding your question correctly, there's a lot of reasons why you could be dealing with feedback issues. First of all, your pickup might not be wax potted. Your guitar might not be shielded properly. The wiring, rarely the case for feedback, but you can have noise issues if the wiring is not done properly. I don't think I'm going to be entering the Texas Toast $400 build. Number one, I'd be dealing with guys that are pros, that are, have all of the tools and equipment to build a really cool guitar. And I don't have the time, honestly. I like building guitars. I don't like building guitars under a stressful timeline. I like taking my time, It's like smoking a cigar. You don't want to puff a cigar. You don't want to puff a cigar quickly. You want to enjoy it and, enjoy it slowly. That's how that's how I do it. Mark says I put him in timeout. Oh man. You know what? Luckily, guys, we don't have too many people that are troublemakers. You know what I'm saying? Luckily, we don't. So that's good. I haven't had I didn't have to have anybody kicked out too often. And I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but if it's a regular thing, it becomes distracting. Hey Mattia, nice to see you. Hope everything's good. He likes my gabagool shirt. If you guys don't know what a gabagool is, it's an Italian thing. Gabagool is a capicolo. You know what a capicolo is? That's kind of the Italian way to say that. So it's an inside Italian joke. But nice to see you here, Mattia. Hope everything is good. It's late over there. Pretty late. Well, not that late. Late afternoon. Guys, I noticed that there was an announcement this week that actually got me pretty excited. PRS did not announce it, but there's been rumors that they're going to be maybe announcing a DGT guitar, an SE version. For me, the DGT model is the model I'd probably buy. There's only two models that really excite me about PRS guitars core line right now, and it's the Tremonti, which is extremely expensive, probably about $11,000, and the DGT model, which, if you guys are not aware, is the David Grisham model with a trim on it. Really nice looking guitar. I have to say, sounds amazing. So if I would go out and buy another one, DGT would be the one. Unfortunately, they're pretty expensive for the core model, but there's been rumors that they may be releasing an SE model on that. And if the rumors are true, I'm pretty excited. I don't know if the SE model will be exactly the same. It probably won't, but it could be close enough for somebody that's looking for guitars on a budget. So I'm listening. My radar is on. I'm going to pay attention to rumors and see if anything does happen. Exactly, Beavis. It's not David Gristle. No. Close. Excuse me. Close, but no cigar. It's not David Gristle. Grissom. 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 Mark made me laugh there. He said, I went to an Italian restaurant last night and I told my mom I was going to ask for some gabagool. I think it comes from, doesn't it come from the Sopranos? I didn't watch all the episodes of the Sopranos, but I think that's where it originally comes from. Lion King wants to know if I'm planning on purchasing the Epiphone Adam Jones Les Paul Custom. Who knows? I'm not going to say no, because then I'd lie if... Here, let me see what the prices are on that right now. I'm always looking for stuff. It all depends on when opportunities come up. Because sometimes there's just no good deals that come up. I like it. It's a nice looking guitar. I don't know if I'm going to buy another one. Honestly, I have enough Les Paul style guitars, said no one ever. It's a pretty nice guitar with the artwork in the back. And, if anybody's into fabric top guitars, that sort of thing, this guitar has a nice image in the back of it. A young girl. Limited edition artwork. They look really nice. I don't know if I'd buy one though. At the end, the guitars are going to be, if they're going to be too nice to play, then it's like you don't want to ruin it with buckle rash or anything. Yeah, I figured it was from The Sopranos. To be honest with you, I never actually watched The Sopranos. I watched a couple of series. I might actually watch them now, even if it's not too late, but I figured that's where it was from. Yeah, you would have to feel the neck on the GTT first, obviously. But the sound on that guitar is incredible. It really caught my attention from the first time I heard it. It was really nice. Munch says Capicola sounds like Gabagool in gangster English. It's a cold cut. Yeah, it's a cold cut. If you're Italian, you know what Capicool is. Capicolo. That's what it is. You got to do it with the hand like this. That is my dog snoring. I told you it wouldn't be long for her to start snoring like that. Yeah, Munch, that's a good suggestion. Try reversing one of the pickup wiring connections, i.e. change the connections on the single and see if that does it, regarding the feedback type issues there. The guitar has a little opera singer inside. I hate when that happens. Guys, challenges, that's the great thing about building guitars, is that you learn as you go. Actually, thinking of that, maybe you guys could, here's one for you guys. So Mattia, who's on the chat here, had a good question for me earlier this week, and he asked me, basically, one of these things, the trem arm, this broke off inside the bridge post on one of his guitars, and he wanted to know how he can get it out of the hole. So it's tricky, right? Because if it's deep down inside the hole in your trem, how do you get it out? I recommended that what he does is remove the block from the bridge to start off, so we can get actually closer to the hole. Excuse me. And then just lightly tap a little thin screwdriver so he could hopefully make a little divot into the end and try to screw it out. Not easy to do. Other than that, I also suggested maybe putting in a piece of rubber band to see if you can grip and turn it out. But if it's deep in the hole, it's kind of hard. Do you guys have any other suggestions beyond just replacing the easiest thing would be just to replace the bridge saddle, because it'll cost you maybe $30 or $40 to get a decent brass bridge saddle. Probably the easiest way to take care of it and save yourself the hassle. The easy out could be an option, but it's deep in the hole, and the easy out bit is bigger than the hole, I think. You understand what I'm saying, Rico? It's deep in. So the bit is fatter. It's hard to get the easy out into the hole. Because I thought of that, but I don't think that would work. So open to suggestions if anybody has other suggestions. Gene says, I'm doing a fabric top Telecaster. Do all fabric top need binding? Good question. Probably not, but it's it probably makes a nicer edge if you cut it along the binding as opposed to going over a rounded edge, in my opinion. But that's a great question. And Munch says you can get reverse twist drill bits to help remove it. Yeah, those are, that's what was referred to earlier in terms of the easy out. That's what those are. But they have to be very, very thin. So I don't know if they make them that thin. And honestly, the bits will probably end up costing you most of the price of a new block. So is it really worth it? I'm not really sure. Small drill and spin it out of the block. I'm thinking if you make a hole, here's another thing that you could possibly do, Mattia, is take the block, work from the bottom hole, because usually there's a bottom hole and a top hole. The top hole is where you screw it in. You don't want to damage the threads. But if you go through the bottom hole, I would drill a small hole in this guy from the bottom with a very, very small drill bit. Drill in there. And then reverse spin it, put a drill bit inside, reverse spin it, and it should actually come out the other side. That could work. That could work. If you can get the easy outs in small size, that would work. And Rico says Amazon has a set for 18 bucks. Irwin screw extractor spiral flute, 6 pieces. Smallest one looks tiny. So there you go. There's an option right there. Hopefully that helps. Or you can install a Vega Trem. Yeah, that's the other option. A little bit more expensive though. And Munch says, as a mechanic all my life, I already have reverse twist bits and matching easy outs for each size. They start at about 1.5 millimeters or 1/16 of an inch. So there you go. There's an option. Ed says, do you think NUX will make a higher end MG to compete with more expensive floor maulers? I don't really know. Maybe. The ones that they have are really budget entry level units that are not bad. They sound really good. Obviously have more limitations than a full-blown Fractal or Cerberus, not Cerberus, the other one there. I'm drawing a blank. Sorry guys, it's still early. I don't know if they're going to come out with more expensive models because I don't know how many people would be willing to spend that kind of money on something made in China that may or may not be supported over the long term. That's one of the things with this unit. You know that Fractal is going to be supporting this stuff. Check what I got, guys. This was a little gift from my wife. Rolling Stone Rock Trivia Calendar. Let's play. I'm going to give you... I'm behind schedule on the calendar. I haven't started ripping off the pages. So here, let me ask you one. Let me ask you an easy one here. See who has the answer. Helix. Thank you, Beavis. And where are the answers? Oh, there we go. Okay, here's a stupid one. For certain retail store editions of In Utero, the Nirvana album, Nirvana's Rape Me was retitled to A, Tape Me, B, Ape Me, C, Waif Me, or D, Grape Leaves. So if there's any Nirvana fans in the house, give me the answer. A, Tape Me, B, Ape Me, C, Waif Me, or D, Grape Leaves. Rico says, ordered a used NUX JTC for 80 bucks. Still have yours? Yes, I do. I do have mine. You're going to like it, man. It's a great little unit. $80 is not bad. They're still floating around out there, even though they've been out for a while. If you guys are interested in checking those ones out as well, again, I did a video on that. Are the prices? I haven't checked out the prices recently to see whether or not they've gone up or down. Have they gone up or down? Did you buy the big one or the small one? Because I know they have a mini one now. The mini one, I think, sells for on Amazon. Do they still? Oh, it's unavailable on Amazon. Okay. The full-fledged one is about $240 Canadian right now still. The mini one, I'm not really sure how much it is. Let me just see if I can find one. I'm sure the mini one would be sufficient for a lot of people. It's a shame you can't get it on Amazon though. My dog's getting ready to split. She smells something good. Lempu has a good question. He says, by the way, is it right that humbuckers are always used with 500K pots? I love my humbucker with 250K pots, but never see any wiring for humbuckers with 250. Generally, they're mostly 500K, yes. You could put whatever pots you want, but typically humbuckers are used with 500K pots. So you guys picked C. Well, the answer is Wave Me, and you guys probably, I don't know if you guys cheated or not, or if you already knew this, but yeah, the answer is Wave Me. So if you guys are Nirvana fans, you probably already knew this, right? Nothing new. Here, let me throw one more at you. Let me throw one more. Let me see here. Here's maybe one that's a little bit less known. Which English soul singer and former John Paul Jones collaborator is credited with helping persuade U.S. record mogul Jerry Wexler to sign Led Zeppelin? Is it A, Tom Jones, B, Dusty Springfield, C, Joe Cocker, or D, Mick Hucknall? So that's something that you may have to Google. Do you want me to repeat that? I'll repeat it just in case it went. So these are the choices. Tom Jones, Dusty Springfield, Joe Cocker, or Mick Hucknall. Who helped convince Jerry Wexler to sign Led Zeppelin? Cletus says, is anyone else annoyed with vintage guitars because it's made searching for vintage guitars based on age more difficult? That's what I was saying earlier, Cletus. If you're looking for information on these guitars, it's gonna pop up everything else related to vintage guitars in general, as opposed to the actual brand. They should have picked a better name. From a marketing perspective, that was a mistake. Who knows how many people are not finding these guitars because they're searching vintage and coming up with everything else under the sun. Eddie says, my dog cocked his leg on my 5150 combo a few years ago. I almost died. Eddie, so far my dog hasn't done that. But yeah, if that would happen, you would have to take the dog behind the shed. Take care of business. All right. So the answer to the question Huge mistake on the name, exactly. The answer is Dusty Springfield. So Dusty was credited with helping persuade Jerry Wexler, the record mogul in the United States, to sign Led Zeppelin. See, I did not know that. So you can't say I'm not helping you guys with additional useless information. Because, you're never going to need this information, right? I feel like Cliff Clavin sometimes with all this useless information floating around my head that I'm never going to need or use. But it's there in case, for whatever reason, you want to impress someone. John D says, Davis Music, it's out already. Really? Okay, there we go. Give us a link. Yeah, exactly, Cletus. When trying to search for vintage made in Japan brands, I get flooded with vintage the brand results. See, for me, it's the opposite. When I search vintage guitars, I get vintage Strats, vintage Telecasters, vintage everything, except for the brand. So for you, it's different. I don't know if we're using the same browser or what, but if I type in vintage guitars right now, let me just try this in Google. Here. Vintage guitars. It doesn't come up right away for me. And it could be just my geographical location, or Google's doing something based on my search history or whatever. Yes, Fat Philosopher, Page played on Goldfinger. Yes, a lot of people don't know that. And I think that's cool. Gabagool over here. Exactly, Leo. A lot of people don't know that Jimmy Page played on Goldfinger. And I was very surprised to learn that myself. But I think that is cool. Very cool. Deluxe Tapes, this one's called. Tape Echo. Ugh. A lot of times I don't like too much delay on my sounds. There's a Dirty Shirley sound in here, and it's not that bad. It's a little dark. This one has a little bit more of a, because there's flange and delay and reverb. Oh man, up here is... So there's a lot of, that's not a dry effect, that's with, they have a dry version in here as well. And it's funny because they have 1 and 2, so I believe that refers to input 1, which is the lower gain, and the higher gain. But to me, it sounds a little bit too dark. My actual amp is not that dark. So this is kind of dry. No effects. To me, that sound, too dark compared to the real thing. So I'm going to have to like tweak it a little bit more to get it to sound the way it should. But I'm sure I can get it to sound dead on. D-Max says, hi Tony, before the Fractal, did you prefer one big pedal board or a couple of smaller ones? Because I didn't really want to have like 2 or 3 different pedal boards, I stuck to one bigger pedal board, and I still have it. It's right behind me here on this side, there, right there. It's the Acclam Guitars pedal board that I did a review on. Really nice pedal board. You can fit about eight or so pedals on that. I still use that one when I use my amps. By the way, I'm trying to figure out a good way to carry the Fractal. And what I decided was I was going to take this guy. So this is not the best case. It came with my pedal board, but the Fractal box fits perfectly in here. Right now the Fractal box is in here with the foam and everything. So I think what I'm going to do is put the Fractal in here and carry it that way, because I don't have a decent case. And unfortunately, these soft bags, nobody really makes one that's padded properly, that is affordable, you know. And I wouldn't want anything to happen to the Fractal, so I prefer putting it in the box with the foam, in the case, carrying it that way. That's what I'm going to end up doing for tonight, and hopefully that'll work well, because we're in the middle of winter, guys, and there's snow on the ground and everything, and you can easily slip, fall, drop it, and you know, I wouldn't want that to happen. But I'm on the hunt for a better solution. Eddie, I prefer, right now I haven't played the Fractal with a 4-cable method, but I prefer going through my FR speaker. And I was saying earlier on in the chat that if you're going to be programming any kind of multi-effects unit, not just the Fractal, anything, you know, even these smaller ones like the Valaton or the Nuex or the Ampero, you know, any of these, you wanna program them while you're listening through the speaker you're going to be using. My FR speakers right there. There, see it? So what I do is I play the music through my speakers, and I match the sound that I'm hearing on the recording while I'm listening back on the Headrush unit, and dial it in that way. I know a lot of people might not be interested in this information if you're not using a multi-effects unit, but trust me, if you are, do yourself the favor, program it that way. Because with headphones, doesn't work, man. I had to redo all of my sounds. I thought I had them dialed in. They sounded really great in the headphones. Totally different when you get to the flat response speaker. I think Fractal does provide a case. They don't give it to you. If you want one, you have to buy it. Yeah, if I fall and I break that thing, I'm going to regret it. So, Fractal does not give it to you for free. If they have one, I would have to take a look. Let me see here. If I Google Fractal FM9 case or bag, a lot of people are searching for these things. There's something on... there's people selling these cases and stuff, these bags on Reverb. They're claiming they're specific for Fractal, but they're not. They have covers, like, you know, if you're on stage and you want to cover it up, they have covers for it that are padded, but they're not bags. So I don't know if anybody has any better suggestions. I would love to have like an actual molded ABS case for it with like foam padding inside that's waterproof. That's, you know, not too heavy. They do have flight cases, but flight cases are too heavy. So I would like to get like, you know, like a Pelican case. So sort of like the same kind of cases you would use for like rifles. You know, just a smaller version of that with foam padding inside. That would probably be the best. So if any of you spot one of those somewhere in the wild, let me know. Yeah, Dan, that's what I mentioned. I just said, put the Fractal in a hard shell assault rifle case. That should put the scare into someone. Exactly. You know, get one of those cases that are camouflage spray painted. It's a shame that they don't have something. reasonably priced, but it doesn't seem like they do. Maybe I haven't looked hard enough. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, a nice Pelican case. Unfortunately, the size, I mean, it's about this big, right? This high and about this thick. The Pelican cases, it's kind of a weird, it's a weird shape. They don't usually make cases like that. They're more rectangular, and this is more wide. Harbor Freight, maybe, yeah. Yeah. For the time being, my MacGyvered bag and box should do the trick, but eventually I'm gonna have to get something a little bit better than that. Shall we get to the poll, guys? The poll question. I'm gonna jump onto the poll question here because since we're talking about multi-effects units, let's talk about who's using them. So the results of the poll are in, and basically, so the question was, analog or digital, what setup are you currently rocking? So the choices were A, a real tube amp, B, transistor amp, C, digital multi-effects unit, or D, I don't need any of that, I'm playing 100% analog acoustic guitar. So number one, not a big surprise, is real tube amp. 52% of you said it's a real tube amp. Second is digital multi-effects unit. That is surprising because I would have assumed that transistor amp would have been second. So 30% of you said digital multi-effects unit, 14% said transistor amp, and only 3% said acoustic guitar. So it seems like most of you out there are still rocking the tube amps. So that is that's not surprising, but I was actually surprised by the answer that multi-effects units are second and not third. And then we had a few people respond with some comments. Hobo said mostly real transistor. Physical echo is a thing. Across the pastures was fairly awkward, but driving down tubes is an interesting way to stimulate some delay. Brandon Porter says, went from a Soldano 30-watt tube and a PRS 15-watt tube MT, then got a quad Cortex and captured both and loved it and figured I don't need the tube amps anymore and sold them and gonna use the money on more guitars for more flavor. So I haven't sold anything yet, but I'm kind of at the point right now where I'm evaluating. And the thing that I'm trying to evaluate is, will the FM9, stand the test of time? We'll see. I'm not making any hasty decisions right off the bat. I'm waiting. Frank Rack says, I have a tube amp ×2 with a Kemper toaster, never enough. And Surfer By says tube amp and acoustic. Cletus Christ says transistor amps aren't easy to come by, surprisingly. And options are 95% tube or digital modeling. Eddie's currently doing the HS Stomp into an FRFR speaker. And Gene says, I use my Zoom FX for harmonica, cigar box, guitar, keyboards, and bass and guitar. I have a pig nose, so don't judge me too harshly. Hey, whatever works, man. Nobody's judging here. Nick says, I'm rocking a 2 amp rig. My signal goes to a 40-watt tube and to a 100-watt solid state amp. And Vox says, all of the above depending on what day it is. Yeah, I'm kind of like you, Vox. All of the above is sort of where I'm sitting right now. EF says, Mac Mini with Torpedo SW. I guess he means software. and metal heater 123, all of them. So I guess we don't like to give up our gear. I guess we don't like to give up the tried and true tube amps. And I don't blame you, because honestly, tube amps are easy to dial in. They give you a good sound generally. They take pedals extremely well. It's a good option. The only disadvantage is that you're limited to that kind of one sound with some flavor added with pedals. But if you're rocking a setup that requires more than one type of effect, or quick switching, if you're in a cover band, it's always nice to have the flexibility of dialing in whatever you need in one unit, having everything at your disposal. Jerry F says tube amp and 65 watt cream back is what works for me. And Eddie says, if the Fractal is good enough for Guthrie Govan, it should be good enough for anyone. I think it's really what you make of it. It's easy to give up. That's the thing, you know what I mean? These multi-effects units sometimes will make you throw in the towel because it's just too time consuming. You want to play, you don't want to program. I get all of that. And some people are like, enough with that. I'm just going back to an amp and pedals because it's easy. I understand that 100%. And I've done it myself many times, you know. But if you stick with it, it's quite rewarding when somebody compliments you on a sound that you've programmed and you spent time really dialing in, and they take notice and they're like, hey, that sounds really great. That's where it's worth it, you know. So hopefully that'll happen. Maybe not right away, but I'm sure it'll happen. Fat says, I like tube amps, just presently not using one. Mark says, I went from tube to digital and back to tube. And tubes do move more air. Yeah, there's something about the harmonics on a tube amp that you kind of don't necessarily get with digital amps. They're getting close, and they're getting closer every day. And honestly, at some point, when you're playing a show, people don't care. As long as you get people moving, the energy is there. Most people couldn't care less whether you're playing through a tube amp or a transistor amp or a fractal or whatever. As long as the music is good and the energy is good and you're getting the heads bobbing, that's what they care about more than anything. So a lot of people in the audience couldn't care less. But you, as a musician, as a guitarist, will probably be able to tell the difference under the fingers. There is nuances there that you can perceive, the way the response happens with the guitar and what you're trying to do on the guitar. You can definitely tell the difference. And I agree, Charles, 100%. Charles is like, I would rather play my guitar than spend an hour spinning knobs and searching menus and presets. Keep it simple. Totally understand. And I flip-flop, Charles, just to let you know. Sometimes I'm fed up. I'm like, I need a break. I'm going to take this, put it aside, go back to my pedals, play through my amps. Sometimes not even play through the pedals. Just go straight into the amps with some nice gain. And that makes me happy, you know. And other times I geek out on this stuff and I'm like, let me see how far I can take the technology. Can I get that, the edge sound on that particular song where he has the double delays happening and you can hear the original sound of the guitar underneath and he's going to 2 amps. Can I get that, you know? And it's cool to learn how to do that, because at the end, if you could, one of the things that I find is beneficial when you're building your own patches is it really lets you pay more attention to the actual sound. Like I can tell now, not just because I got the Fractal, but because I've been doing it with other units as well. When I listen to a sound, like I can already analyze how much gain there is, what kind of amp more or less is being used, what effects are being used on the sound, how much of each, even what effects comes first, some of the post-processing effects that are happening on the sound that you can't easily mimic because it's done in a studio and it's not done at the signal chain. So then you have, you're able to really hone in on the sound. A lot of times people dial in the sounds and they're dialing in way too much gain. I've seen so many people dialing in sounds for AC/DC, Van Halen, ZZ Top, who else? There's a lot of other bands where they're just overdoing the gain. It's too much gain. And if you listen to those songs carefully, I would even recommend trying to download an isolated track of those songs. You'll see that there's not that much gain on them. It sounds big the way it's recorded, but a lot of that is really reverb. It's really the reverb that makes it sound huge. And if you know how to use it, especially the panning effects for Eddie Van Halen, dry signal one side, totally wet on the other side, and with a nice plate reverb and all that kind of stuff, you can get a huge sound out of it. But a lot of people are just dialing in too much gain, and it just sounds fizzy, and you lose the dynamics. It's not a question of patience. It's just, I geek out over these things. That's all. But I understand. I understand if people would prefer to play. And honestly, I've said it many times before. If I'd spend the time practicing and playing as opposed to tweaking knobs, I'd be a better overall player and probably sound way better anyway. So there's that. Yeah. Less gain. David says, I suffer from option paralysis on modelers. Sold all mine and I'm all tube amp again, but now I want another modeler. I drive myself nuts over this. I've done it many times. It's okay to flip-flop. And the interesting thing is that over time, the units have gotten so much better. Like really, if you look at the last 10 years, what we were playing 10 years ago compared to today, what you can get is night and day in terms of quality, in terms of realism, in terms of options, even price point. It's crazy. So look at it that way, All right, guys. I don't know. Should we call it quits? I've been on for an hour 47 minutes now. Should we stay on for another 12 minutes? Let's stay on for another 12 minutes and then we're going to call it quits, all right? So, guys, if you have questions, post your questions. If you haven't given us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you'd like to see some video reviews coming up that I haven't already done, and you have some suggestions, put the suggestions in the chat because I'm always considering new topics. And of course, fractal stuff, that's eventually going to happen, but I mean other things as well. Guitars, pedals, amps, other different things like that. Every day I play 4 different guitars, but only one is amplified most times. Okay, cool. Which guitar, Gene? What's your favorite? Hobo. Back at you, man. Eddie says, theoretically, with a modeler, you should be able to tone match any guitarist, but I can't do it and it pisses me off. Theoretically, you should be able to get into the ballpark, but a lot of the tone comes from the fingers, Eddie. That's the missing element that a lot of people forget. You know what I'm saying? You end up losing that is the element that nobody talks about whenever anybody's doing gear review videos, when they're demoing signature guitar models, signature amps, signature pedals, signature tones from fractals and other things, any kind of modelers. Tone is in the fingers, man. It's difficult to sound like somebody just because you're playing the signature guitar. Just because I buy a Dragon Telecaster won't make me necessarily sound like Jimmy Page. Just because I'm playing a signature David Gilmour Strat, something from Custom Shop, it won't make me sound like like David. It's just a lot of the stuff's in the finger, you can play, you can match the sound all you want, but to get that SRV tone is not obvious. It's in the fingers. Eddie says, Tony, I ever seen a Telecaster body with a tremolo route already in it, looking for a build. I'm sure I have. I can't remember where, but I'm sure I have. Have you scoured eBay? I'm sure I've seen them. Maybe even try Wormouth. I'm sure they exist. By the way, Eddie, if ever you're looking at putting a Telecaster on a tremolo on a Telecaster, Vegatrem has come up with a way of doing that now. One of their Vega Trems is designed specifically for Telecasters. Did you know that? So check them out. Yes, create your own tone. Tone chasing is a futile, in my opinion, you're basically wasting your energy, I think. Because you can have the same setup. You can have 3 people playing that setup. They're going to all sound different. So a lot of people spend so much time researching what pedal did David Gilmour's use on Dark Side of the Moon. They get all the vintage gear. They spend a ton of money replicating the signal chain. And at the end, they still don't sound like him. Because it's in the fingers. A lot of it's in the fingers, man. So create your own tone, yeah. Create your own tone. Get, understand what you need as a musician. And just spend the time making the sounds that you have the best they can be. You don't necessarily need to replicate 100%, you know. Presley says, wait. I'm returning my Silver Sky then. Are you trying to sound like Mr. Big? Wormouth doesn't have any? I'm surprised. Did you check out the Vega Trem? Did you guys check out the Vega Trem Telecaster? Let me. It's called the VT2 Tremolo, Telecaster Tremolo. If you're interested in doing that, it's a drop-in. That's the cool thing. Let me share my screen. Can you see this guy? It's basically a drop-in replacement for a Telecaster. I'll let you do the reading on it, but there you go. I'm not sure if this will only work on a hardtail or a string through, but you can see the way it works. This looks like, the tremolo is a hardtail, but I don't know if it will apply. If you can actually, here you can see that it's, they're putting it on a string through. You can see the little, here you can see the little bars that are going through here, these guys. So I guess it would work. They're not going to be cheap. I'm telling you that right now. Okay. The Vegatrem stuff is not inexpensive, but it's very well made. Jose, you're right. Why are we always spending time talking about tone, guitars, amps, pedals, etc.? We don't talk too much about improving guitar playing. Well, you're absolutely right. I think part of what the conversation would be maybe improving the way you play guitar, improving the way you practice techniques. The thing is, it's a lot easier to talk about gear because we're all in different stages of our guitar journey. Not everybody's at the same level. So, for example, if you want to, get some great tips on technique and tone, there's a lot of people out there doing videos on that. But Some people are just more advanced than others, so it's a little bit more difficult. I try and share some tips from now and then, just to keep everybody engaged and focusing on the right thing. My dog's sniffing around here looking for a snack. Jedi Jingle Maker, welcome, man. Yeah, that's one way of doing it. Great way to improve is practice. Have you put in your 2,000 hours? There's no shortcuts, guys. That's the thing. Really, if you're going to do anything, you got to practice. And they say if you want to be an expert, you got to put in your 2,000 hours. So start your little time clock and get cracking on the scales and the theory and yeah, Beavis. Here you go. Headstock. It's not a Telecaster. It's not a Gibson headstock. It looks a lot more like a Harley Benton headstock. Hint, hint. I wonder if this company's making the Harley Benton stuff. I'm not really sure. But it looks like the Harley Benton stuff to me. Jerry says, when I started to record my guitar playing years ago, what I thought sounded good when I played it back was shocking how overgained I had the control set. Backed off the gain, way better sound. That is one of the things. My dog's getting impatient. She's like, let's go get a snack. Enough with the guitar talk. That's one of the things that I think is often overlooked. When we talk about improving your playing, yes, sometimes we overdo the gear talk, 100%. One of the things that I highly recommend is to record yourself. A lot of people don't do it. And really, when you record yourself playing, you really can hear all of the nuances, the mistakes, the phrasing. So many times when you're playing, you're just so focused on the playing aspect that you don't necessarily listen, because you're in your head, you're kind of thinking about how you sound, but you're not listening. So if you actually record, you will actually hear so many things, and it's really shocking if you think about it. It's almost like when you record your voice for the first time, and what you're hearing in your head is not what you actually sound like. It's the same thing when you start recording yourself when you're playing. Nice to hear your sub, Jedi Jingle Maker. Hopefully we'll see you on the regular Sunday shows. And I like your Van Halen little icon there. Really cool. Take it easy, Eddie. Hopefully we'll see you next Sunday. Beavis says, I usually can't stand the headstock design on Gibson knockoffs, but the Harley Benton one totally works for me. I think simple is better when it comes to headstock design. I don't really like two headstock designs that are overly ornate. Simple is better. So Jedi Jingle Maker says that it's all about recording the music. All my original music is on YouTube. Jedi Jingle Maker. It has helped me a lot. I think so too. I don't have a hip shot surfer by. Baby Grand Bridge on a build. Don't. There's another, now that we're talking about bridges, there's another company that, man, I forget the name now. Let me see if I could find it. Here it is. I think it is. That I wanted to point out to you guys. Yes, here we go. So if ever you're looking at putting a bridge on your guitar, one of the bridges that actually caught my attention, I haven't tried them yet, but I'd love to eventually. The company is called Babix. Babicz. Babicz. Here, let me share it with you guys so you can see. It's best to show, right? A picture's worth 1,000 words. And I'm not affiliated with these guys at all. I haven't tried them, but their bridges seem pretty cool. Full contact bridges. So the way they're made, can you see these? Their claim to fame is that the bridges, here I'll pull up a Telecaster bridge so you can see what I mean. The pictures are not that great, but here, let me blow up this guy here if I can. Can I blow it up? I hate when you can't go into detail on the shots. Anyways, the way the bridges are made is that the actual bridge saddles are actually pinned down to the block, and it's a full contact bridge setup. I'm very curious to try these out and see how well they work. And perhaps maybe I'll even put one on my build. Like something like this one here. Now they're not inexpensive, as you can see. And black out of stock, expected 2023. So it's $199 to $229 for the bridge. So it's not a giveaway. This is US dollars, and you probably have to pay for shipping as well. But here, if I blow it up, can you see this? Look at these saddles. So they're not floating, they're actually pinned down. Look at the mass on this thing. Really high mass bridge. I'm curious to see how these things sound. Now these are not string through body, this is a hardtail. So I believe they have the string through body version 2. But I don't know where it is. I would have to scour to see. But I got to try these out. I'm very curious about these. Have any of you tried them? Jetta Jingle Maker says, I got vintage hip shots for a Squire Mini I'm modifying to be a travel guitar. Love the hip shot tuners, and their bridges also look cool. The stuff seems solid. A lot of people like the hip shot stuff. I like it too. Cleta says, I'm a fan of the Dan Electro Coke bottle headstock. Not sure why, just like it. Yeah, maybe it's a Jimmy Page thing. I don't know if you can adjust the radius on them. I'm not sure. I haven't tried them, Beavis. I would have to check, maybe inquire a little bit more. So Mark says the YouTuber with the problematic Vega Trem issue is Andre Flood. And the new Tele Vega Trem is disappointing. Initial impressions. Yeah, maybe it's not as good. Who knows? I don't know. I haven't tried one. I haven't tried the Telecaster version of the Vega Trem. I've tried the regular Strat one, and I like them. I actually have two, and I'm going to be putting another one in another guitar soon. Maybe I'll videotape that one for you guys too. But I don't know about the Telecaster one. I haven't tried. Davis says, was going to try one on my Epiphone 335, but they are pricey. May still try one. I'll let you know. Why do you want to swap that out on your Epiphone? What do you feel is lacking, Davis? A lot of people leave it as is and don't mess with it. And, keep in mind that a lot of times we're chasing tone only to be disappointed, and maybe it's not that much of a big improvement, for the money that we've paid. Jedi wants to know if anyone has played the Ibanez AZES guitars. AZES guitars, which are pretty affordable. They're only about $400. I haven't, but at that price, man, maybe I should. They look like, it looks solid enough. I like the layout on the guitars. Pretty simple, 2 knob, 1 switch. I think they're doing the out of phase thing on the humbucker on those guitars. I like the fact that there's no crazy inlays on them. I like the fact that the heel on the AZs, the AZEZ guitar are carved. I like them. I haven't tried them. I wonder why I haven't. I should, huh? I should put it on my list. Has anybody tried them? Has anybody tried the Ibanez? I'm gonna probably try one. Thank you for putting it on my radar. Now I gotta try another guitar. I would love to try them first at a store before I end up buying one. Where would be the best place to get them? Long and McQuaid has them here in Montreal. $4.89, not a price. I don't know what people have been saying. There's an interesting review here. I don't know if it's a real review. I hope they would be a step up from the Geoline, because the Geoline wasn't that great. But for $400, I'll read a review. It says, nice Squire competitor. And what they're saying is, I wanted a HSS Strat, so I went with this guitar. At first impressions in the store, the guitar was very light. The neck was smooth, thin, flat, fast, very Ibanez-y. The fret edges were finished very nicely on my guitar. No rolled edges here on the neck, but the fret ends were smooth. Hard to believe at this price point. I have a more expensive Squire that wishes it had these fret edges. The Ibanez also had that amazing curvy all-access heel joint that makes playing at fret 17 and up extremely enjoyable and fuss-free. Yes, I don't mind the Squire block of a regular Strat, but this one is so much better. Once you have it, you don't want to go back to a square block. The mind-blowing thing about this guitar is the alternate pickup wiring switch, which gives you so many different and usable sounds that it's hard to believe. You can even get a neck humbucker sound, a middle Telecaster position sound, etc. However, the big surprise to me was that this guitar does not really sound like a Strat. Even in regular position, it sounds very Ibanez-y. For some songs, that's a good thing, but others, where you want the crystal chime and quack of a Strat, you won't find it here. The classic six screw bridge is plenty stable and by default floating on standard E tuning. I had no issues here, and the affordable tuners were okay as well. My biggest disappointment in this guitar is that the overall size of it. As overall size of it, and yes, as I play, I'm getting more used to it, but the guitar is 25-inch scale length as opposed to Fender's or Ibanez's standard 25.5. And critically more important, the body is slightly smaller than a typical Strat. For me, this makes the guitar a bit less comfortable playing in a sitting position. I prefer the full size of a Strat where I can. Oh, so that's interesting. So I didn't know that. So the guitar is actually a different scale length and slightly smaller. That would probably make it less interesting for me. I like the full size guitar bodies, but I would have to try it. I would have to play it. And I don't know if it comes in that many color combinations now. Could make a good modding platform. And it's made in China, right? Yeah, probably. Indonesia? Okay, Indonesia instead of China. David says, good point. Just chasing tone, it already sounds good. Though maybe a full contact bridge might make it sound better. Maybe, but sometimes you will find that it's not as obvious as you thought it would be. And Jedi says that I have several great guitars from Indonesia. Blows me away how good they are. Again, don't worry about where they're made, guys. Just worry about the quality, because there's good stuff coming out of China. There's good stuff coming out of Indonesia. And there's crappy stuff coming out of China and Indonesia too. They're not all the same. It all depends on how much money the manufacturer wants to make on the guitars. They can make guitars that look very good, but are not necessarily good guitars. And they can make guitars that are extremely well made. The quality of the CNC machines that everybody has access to today is across the board. So they can make outstanding stuff in China today, as long as you're willing to pay for it. Thank you, Gene. Smash the like button. Thank you. Thank you. Beavis says, unless my Epi G400 was made in China, but I sold that thing fast because it sucked. What goes on in a factory stays in a factory. Yeah, but I mean, you can't hide the quality. Eventually, when you play a guitar, you can tell whether or not it's a good guitar or not. The stuff I have here that I've purchased that was made in Japan, for example, most of it, for the better part of it, is outstanding stuff. And, rivals whatever they're making in North America easily. So it all depends. You have to try it. Nothing beats a Gibson SG neck, says Beavis Christ. It's true that even the Epiphones that have come out recently, the inspired by Gibson Epiphone SGs, don't feel like a US-made SG. I've tried them side by side. I prefer the American-made SG neck compared to the Epiphone. And it's unfortunate because I really felt like the Epiphone stuff is good. If you're not a stickler for the neck profile, you probably would be happy with the Epiphone SG. But if you compare the two side by side, they're not the same. Same goes for the 335. The 335 Epiphone neck and the Gibson Epiphone neck, not the same. The guitar looks the same, but they don't feel the same. But again, as I mentioned many times, I don't necessarily want all my guitars to be identical. So since I already have a Gibson 335, I don't need another Epiphone 335 that feels identical to my Gibson. That would be redundant. So that's one of the reasons why I was attracted to the Epiphone. It was less expensive. It was an alternative to carrying around a really expensive guitar. And the neck was different. And the pickups are different too. It's a different guitar. Similar, but not the same. Presley says, I got an assembly checklist I'll email to you. Helpful for your video. Hey, thank you. Thank you, buddy. That would be very helpful. Appreciate that. Yeah, Beavis, that's it. That's what I just said. The EPSG neck is way off. Not the same. Different. Munch says, try to buy a Wednesday guitar. Monday and Tuesday, everyone is still burnt out from the weekend. And Tuesday and Friday, everyone is thinking about the weekend. Wednesday guitars are perfect. How do you know if it's a Wednesday guitar? It's kind of like cars, right? You buy a Friday guitar or a Monday, a Friday car or a Monday car, and there's a few missing bolts and screws and stuff. Presley says, never buy a 3 p.m. Friday guitar. Yeah, I agree. Jedi says, I have a Chinese Ibanez Artcore, like a 335. Love the thing, and it was actually $350. Sounds great. Does the BB King sound? Well enough. The Ibanez made some really nice semi-hollow guitars, and I think they still do. So you guys tell me how I will know if the guitar is actually not made on a Wednesday, and I'll try to remember that. All right, guys, I think I overdid it by at least another almost 15 minutes. I promised another to bring it up to 2 o'clock. It's 2:13, 2:14. So I think it's time to wrap it up. I know you guys are busy. I know you guys have a life, unlike my own life where I focus on guitars and stuff like that. I think you guys have things to do. So we're going to wrap it up this week. I appreciate you guys tuning in to the live Sunday show. Great questions. I appreciate the back and forth, and the information exchange is excellent. And I'm happy to see new faces. Again, please remember, guys, next Sunday, don't wait till the end to ask your questions. Come prepared. Write them down. If you think about something during the week, bring it with you so we can just percolate on a couple of different ideas. I think that's great. All right, guys. Have a great week. Practice, practice, practice. Because tone comes from the fingers. And but realistically speaking, we know we're still going to buy gear. Okay, guys, have a good one. Thank you for tuning in. Excellent show. I appreciate all the participation. Stay safe, guys. We're going to be back next Sunday, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So mark it on your calendar. And I'll try and send out a reminder at the tail end of the week so that you can actually remember to tune in. And we'll be seeing each other again. So have an excellent week. Keep on practicing. Make sure you love your guitar and give your guitar some love. Talk to you soon, guys. Take it easy.